Blackham Township, regular meeting, April 21st, 2015, testing.
All right, I'll call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Express Times and Star Gazette, satisfying the Open Public Meeting Act. If we could please stand for a silent prayer and flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Wanda, can everyone take the March 3rd meeting minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve them?
You know, I got this fairly late, and it's like 9 densely packed pages of typewritten pages. I haven't had a chance to read it thoroughly. I'd rather defer it. I bet you others haven't either.
I would second a motion to table it.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, do I have a motion to pay the bills presented in proper form, signed by the director of each department and approved by the majority of the members listed on the bill list?
I'll make the motion.
Second it.
Okay, Becker?
Yes.
Yes.
Van Loop? Are they all signed?
Mine are.
All right. Are they all signed? Yes? I have them all up.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Angeli? Yes. Angeli?
Yes.
And Kern?
Yes. Okay, public comment on agenda items. This is for public comment on agenda items only. Seen. There'll be a separate public comment for the budget. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the attorney's report.
Very quick, Mayor, because you have a lot on your table here tonight. I gave everybody a written attorney's report, again, as I'm trying to do every month at this point. Probably need a very short executive after at the end of the meeting for the PBA arbitration issue. DPW mediation's moving along. TCI, we have reached agreement on the settlement figure, so I should be putting together a potential settlement document on that litigation that will also involve, as I indicated before, substantial repairs. As soon as I get the information from our attorney, our architect, Dave Parentoni, I'll be putting that draft of the settlement agreement together for you guys to look at. Affordable housing, again, we will be filing the declaratory judgment action between June 8 and July 8, as the Supreme Court has basically directed all municipalities. I would note, I saw on the agenda, and I did see it briefly today at my office, there's a proposal from Higher Gruel regarding a new, the cost of repair a new housing element and fair share plan. As I indicated to the mayor, you guys don't have to act on that immediately. I certainly have no problem with Higher Gruel and Susan Gruel, but I don't need a new plan to file with the declaratory judgment action. I just wanted to make that clear to you guys. I will actually be filing a very skinny pleading with a copy of our old plan. And all I'm trying to do is get under the jurisdiction of the court. Then we can take the time. You guys can get proposals or go forward with Higher Gruel, but you don't have to take action on that this evening unless you really want to. And you might want to get a couple, better prices or whatever you guys want to do, okay?
Could you just speak to that a little bit further about the color, about what each municipality is doing as far as the judgment?
Well, again, as I indicated last meeting, for anybody in the public that wasn't here last meeting, affordable housing has been an issue that's been kicking around in the courts for 25 years, but particularly the last 4 or 5 years, there's been litigation between basically the public housing advocates, the New Jersey Builders Association, and the Christie administration through the Council on Affordable Housing, which is the administrative agency. Basically been trying to figure out what is every township's affordable housing obligation number for this current third round. They have 10-year cycles for this stuff. So the Council on Affordable Housing had come up with what they call the gross share formula. This township, like most other townships, prepared a plan We have it. It's been sitting around for 2 or 3 years because there's been litigation over the COA's rules. And just about a month ago, the Supreme Court threw out their rules and threw out the entire gross share formula concept. So now every township, including this township, is going to have to file a pleading with the court to invoke the court's jurisdiction to develop a new housing element and fair share plan that will have new numbers in it in terms of how many affordable housing units we have to develop in this township. What I was saying before about not having to jump very quickly as far as starting a plan is the Supreme Court didn't even give any direction specifically on what the new numbers are supposed to be or what exact formula we're supposed to follow. So we're just invoking the jurisdiction of the court at this point in time because we don't want to see another huge builder's remedy litigation like the Riverwalk was, if you recall, 20 years ago. You had a 1,000-unit development here that was an affordable housing builder's remedy type of a lawsuit. So we're just invoking the court's jurisdiction to make sure we can't get sued and that we have enough time to develop an appropriate plan. So that's where we're going to be going.
Yeah, that's thank you.
Municipal shared court, again, we need a short executive session on that, although I have placed a resolution on the agenda. I guess at this point, we don't even need an executive session. We've been trying to get in place a shared service agreement with Greenwich since, I don't know, December or January probably at least. That shared service agreement falls within the jurisdiction of the Administrative Office of the Courts. So you have to go down and get the approval of the AOC and the sitting assignment judge, in this instance, Judge Ciccone. It's been floundering for weeks and months back and forth here. Not really because of any issues with our township, but we have had an agreement with Greenwich in writing for months, and we have not been able to get it approved by the court. We have finally gotten the parameters for getting that approval. Unfortunately, that requires letting go one of our relatively long-term employees, our court attendant, Walter Lair, not because he's done anything wrong. He's done a very fine job, but his wife, Cindy Lair, happens to be our court administrator, and while the court has always been aware of that relationship, aware of our court structure, and never given us any issue about it. I mean, he's a part-time court attendant, reports directly to the judge, not to Cindy. So I did a memo signed by the Greenwich Township attorney explaining why we thought it was fine. Nevertheless, the court is requiring, as a condition of us approving her approving the shared service agreement, they're demanding that we terminate Mr. Lair to avoid what they call an anti-nepotism issue. That's one of the judiciary rules. Frankly, I think it's way overkill here, to be honest with you, but nevertheless, if we want this shared service agreement to go forward, we will need to get a new court attendant. The other issue that's in your resolution tonight, the court is also requiring 12 additional hours of a violations clerk. So the way I structured the resolution, just so you guys are all aware of it, I gave you the flexibility of either adding those hours to the existing deputy clerk or hiring somebody else. So you can solve it either way. I'll leave that up to you guys because benefits could be involved and stuff if you get up with too many hours for the existing person. So,
Kevin, is that subject to passing along the extra costs involved to Greenwich? I mean, we have an agreement with them, but we didn't anticipate extra costs on our end because of it.
These are the two steps necessary to get the course license, but we don't have a signed contract yet with Greenwich. If you guys calculate the numbers and want to ask for more, then you guys let me know that. We'll go.
And Greenwich said they would, upon that, after they did say they would pay their fair portion of that because they're aware that this was not an issue.
Good.
So that's a good sign.
Thank you.
So I don't, I wouldn't think, Frank, that the AOC, they don't really care what our compensation arrangement is. They care about other issues. Okay, so I'm comfortable if you guys negotiate that. We'll be fine. Other than that, really, Mayor, everything else is generally outlined in my attorney's report. I think that's the only thing that's really of interest to the public this evening.
Thank you, Kevin. Does anyone have any
Wait a
questions?
minute.
Yes.
I have some
Yep.
questions. Did you go over these two bills, Kevin? Remember you and I, you took a
Yes.
picture of them?
I haven't yet. I will have that for you by next meeting. Okay, Sal, I promise you that.
Okay,
I will do that.
okay, that's number one.
Right.
Now, the affordable housing issue, there was 3 municipalities that Clymer built.
Right.
We got credit for 16 units.
Mhm.
Since the Alpha dropped out and Greenwich dropped out, is there any possible way that we could get more credits since these 2 communities dropped out? There's quite a few units up there, and I feel that we should get a lot more credit than what we had. We only had credit for 16 units.
Sal, the best way to do that is what I just said to the public. We don't have any parameters for what the new guidelines for the new plan will be. I think the reason why you were capped at 16 was because that was all the indigenous need. It's a term of art, but that was all that we were allowed to take credit for in that last round.
No,
But if the round goes up and the numbers go up, maybe
no,
we'll get more
Clymer
credit.
was built. And when it was built, our share of the co-op
Was it-
in Clymer was
was only
16. I think it's because of how much we financially contributed to it. Because it was, when we used to be able to meet COA needs, we paid the municipality a certain chunk of change, and they would build the units.
Right.
So that is what happened with that, and that's why I think we have our 16, and I don't think it can be any more.
No, you can't sell.
But what
You
we'll
can't
do
do
is,
that anymore.
Sal, it's an issue that I will make sure that Susan McGruel, or whoever planner we hire to prepare a plan, I'll make sure she's aware of it. I'll make sure that, Mary gets her the background on it. And if there's any possible way to get more, we'll certainly try. I'll put it that way. We'll do the best we can, but I can't really answer it because I don't know what the rules are going to be this round.
You know, this has been going on about 20 years.
Yeah.
Probably another 20 too.
The original Mount Laurel decision, I think, is late 70s, early
I
80s.
was going to say, it was like around from the
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions for Kevin? Okay, we'll move on to the engineer's report.
Okay, Black River and Western Railroad is going to be upgrading the railroad crossing on Carpentersville Road at the north end of River Road this summer. They anticipate it to take 2 days to do the work. They're going to close the road through the day and open it up at night, and they'll have access through the quarry property for emergency vehicles. He just wanted me to let council know and residents know that that was going to take place, and I'll keep you posted as to what the dates are going to be.
And then we'll affect the quarry's operation all over.
No, it's only for emergency vehicles. No, he's clearing it with Lou. Yeah.
Where's that at, Gwen?
It's actually right where Carpentersville Road and River Road come together, like the most northern crossing.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I talked to both the mayor and Sal in the past couple of weeks about the status of the county's drainage project on Mountain Road and Route 627 in the Finesville area. They had, I guess, word was out that the county wasn't going to do the project, and as far as I know, that is not the case. They don't have a funding source for it right now. But the county's land preservation office wrote a letter to one of the farmers there who has most of his property in farmland preservation and advised him that he needs to use better farming techniques to prevent erosion from his property, which has cost the township money in the past. We've had to, remove dirt from the streets, hire contractors to unplug cross drains and that kind of thing. The farmer was supposed to call the county back within 2 weeks to set up a meeting. The letter was dated February 2nd. They still haven't heard from him. So one of the things that the letter stated was that there are grants available for the farmer to make improvements, which could alleviate the erosion problem potentially and possibly a slight amount of the water problem. But the county engineer's office is anxious to have that work done before they do their project, which is understandable. So that's why there was probably talk that the project was on hold. It's really funding is part of it, and also waiting for action from the farmer. I had brought this up months ago and suggested that Kevin write a letter to the Ag Board and the county and try to get them to force the farmer into doing something. And I don't know if
We discussed that last meeting, and they talked about the same thing, so
I made numerous calls up to that office also, pleading the same thing.
okay, so maybe that's what prompted the letter then.
I think so.
Finally, but I think maybe the township could.
Should we write the letter?
Put some pressure
Yeah.
out there to
Well-
have these agencies that provided the funding for the preserved farmland.
Right.
You know, I'm not sure what's in their agreement, but I was told that that the farmers are supposed to farm in accordance with the
There's a
approved
conservation
conservation.
plan that shows the property, and it's supposed to be adhered to help reduce erosion and such. And as I said, I talked to Corey Tierney almost a year ago, trying to get him to do something then. And they're going to be the only authority, I think, that's going to have any teeth on this.
Yeah,
I think-
if they have, if their agreement with these farmers requires some kind of penalty if they're not following it, I think we should push to have that done. That may be the only way that the farmer is going to listen. If we
Yeah.
just write letters, it doesn't seem like it's really being effective.
I think maybe we're at the point where, I think you're right, that notice, and perhaps if the council wants just a short kind of direct letter. So you have two issues. You have the landowner, and you have the farmer farming the land.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I think the notice has to go to the landowner saying, hey, look, we've had repeated soil erosion issues that have impacted, township improvements, drainage improvements, et cetera. And if we incur those again, you're getting the bill. Because that, to me, is a nuisance action. And, it'd be one thing if they're absolutely doing the best they could, and it's just a bad piece of property. But from what I understand, they're not following any type of sound farming practices, not the least of which is an approved conservation plan. They're just wholesale plowing everything up and planting every square inch that they can without putting any type of swaling or little open, grass strips like good farmers like.
Along the perimeter,
Yeah, any of that stuff.
Who's the regulatory agency that would be?
Theoretically, it's soil conservation, but they don't have a lot of teeth. And I've never seen the soil conservation
well,
action.
it isn't really them. It would be from what I've been involved with now. I think it's the Land Preservation Office who, doles out the money to have and then they work with the State Agricultural Development Committee and the Natural Resources
NRCS,
Conservation District, which soil conservation is under that, but they're really not geared to do farming. These other agencies are more.
Right, the NRCS is geared to deal with farming, not so much construction or so
Yeah.
forth, right? Whereas the soil conservation district is geared more towards commercial things.
All right, so should Kevin draft it and then we put it on township letterhead and send it to the soil conservation as well as the property owner? Let's do both.
Yeah, I think we should do both. I don't care if I put it on my letterhead or yours, whatever your preference is. But I think you should. It is time to really get a little more aggressive because they seem to be ignoring the county obviously as well.
Yeah.
I'll draft letters. I'll circulate them.
Okay.
Make sure they're okay.
All right, and then the only other thing I have is that the mayor also asked me to look at an area of Snyder's Road that has had some historical flooding problems. And I did speak to the county about that several years ago, but they have a new county engineer since then. So I did get some photos of the area. Jim confirmed that that was the location, and I'll be sending out a letter to the county this week then and asking them to address it if they could.
Great, thank you.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone on council have any questions for Gwen?
I had something that came up at, I think it was the February Historic Commission meeting about the wing wall work on the, I guess they're concerned that the grant that they had won has a time limit on it, and the it needs to get started. And I think there was some discussion. Yeah, I just wondered. I think we talked about that a couple meetings ago. And did you have any conversations with Michael Margulies about that?
Nobody's contacted me.
Okay, I thought we talked about that because I think there was some discussion about, you know, the different engineers, and McCabe was involved, and there was those inspection things and inspection digs and stuff like that. And I guess they're just. Do you know what we can do to get it going? Are we
Well,
still?
if you authorize us to move forward and put it out to bid, that's what you.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. Was it the wing walls wasn't put out to bid yet, or I thought. Could you speak to Michael Margulies,
Yeah,
because I
okay.
think he's under a different impression.
Oh, okay.
Didn't we have to sign that conservation easement before they would really?
Yeah, that was in my, well, yeah, when we get to that point, we'll have to have that in place, but
Right.
I'm just tweaking that language. Corey's going to send me that in a Word format, because no, you and I don't have it in a format that I can manipulate. So we will have that signed and sealed and back then before we get to anything else.
Right.
Because I'm giving up making any huge modifications to that thing. I'm not having our engineer go down the road of certifying how long it's good for or anything else. So I tried to get a few more modifications out of their standard form easement, but at this point, it's not worth the fight. So
Yeah, I don't think I know that was happening, but I don't think that was.
that's not really what's
What's-
holding up the wall project.
I think there's a misunderstanding about who's
Well,
doing what.
Yeah, the problem with the, if he was going to hold us to that, then he wouldn't have the money to do the wing wall project, so there was concern with that.
We're going to clear that up, but I think it's more just getting the project, probably out of bid. So
Yeah, if you can get me out of the middle of that, because I'm not translating it well. Mhm. Thank you. Okay.
You know, you segue right into Frank. Yeah, it worked out well.
Okay. Continuing on the Historic Commission, the mayor and I met with the PHHS, which, as Mary points out, is different than the PHC. The Historic Commission is the Town Historic Commission, and the PHHS is the Historic and Heritage Society, which sponsors the annual tour and whatnot, and does a lot of good work. Well, I think Sal will be happy to hear that the owners of the Shimer Manor have agreed to donate that property to the PHHS so that they can restore it, basically, and make it a town asset rather than a town liability. And I think Michael's looking to get that documented by May 1st, and I think he wants to start the process in June to get it on the National Register of Historic Places and apply for grants. And they have some money allocated to starting that process already. And they'll be looking for volunteers to help clean up that property. It's quite a mess. In addition, they're looking for volunteers for the annual Finesville Union Cemetery cleanup, which is this Saturday, the 26th. Is that Saturday or Sunday? From 1 to 3. So on April 26th from 1 to 3, there'll be lunch served at 12 o'clock at the Bible Fellowship Church and at the cemetery. So if any of you can help clean up, they're looking for volunteers. Moving on to the finance area, I want to thank Wanda. She, because we had a unusually scheduled meeting with Lopatcong last week on shared services, there was an opportunity for us that we couldn't make for a meeting with the Public Alliance insurance coverage which is part of our process for best practices. I think one of the things we committed to was attending a session, and it helps us meet our best practices, and it also saves us $250 per person attending on our insurances. Unfortunately, that meeting was the same night as our township meeting with Lopakong, so we couldn't go, but Wanda circulated an opportunity to do it online. And actually, I did it online today, and it's not hard at all. So I encourage you guys to do it also. It'll save, for each of you, it takes about a half hour, 45 minutes.
Al already did it.
Do,
Excellent.
and then from you going on, you identify yourself, and then the township gets credit for it?
Yes.
Okay. You don't have to print anything, do you?
No.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, and it's good information too. Speaking of shared services with Lopakong, we all met, and some of our citizens were there at that joint meeting with Lopakong. We set up subcommittees to look at it further. Mayor and I are on one subcommittee on our side, and Donna Schneider and Lou Belcaro are on the subcommittee on Lopakong side. Yeah, it was an entertaining meeting. Interesting.
Different.
I think if we could get a shared service there, we can get a shared service there. But I, despite the challenge, I think it's worth, looking at and, meeting with these folks and seeing if it's possible. Because any way we could save money for the town is welcome. Lorraine, do you want to speak about that e-lockbox opportunity? Is that? Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Our local bank, is it okay to say the name?
Yeah,
Okay.
PNC.
Yeah, we bank with PNC Bank, and they have a relatively new service. It came out late last year called e-lockbox. And that enables anyone that pays a municipal bill, whether it's tax or water and sewer or an animal license, you can use your online banking. And in the past, it used to take, say, 7 days to get the monies to us. So when you would go in your online banking, instead of it coming up the next day where an ACH would, it would come up, say, 7 days in the future. The service that PNC Bank now has will be able to receive direct ACHs. It'll go directly into our whatever account is denoted as the receiving account for it, and we'll get your money a lot faster, and you won't have any fees. So for people that wanted other options to pay their taxes and sewer, you can much more easily now use your online banking. Yes, you could, just like that commercial says for you.
Thank you. And then another thing that we're looking into is leave time maintenance, keeping track of leave time. Right now, I believe we keep track of it two ways. Once for payroll and once for keeping track of vacation and sick time and such. And I think we're going to be looking into the payroll system to see that we could do it in one-stop shopping rather than having employees complete 2 timesheets for leave time and for pay. And on one other issue, not finance related necessarily, but directly, is the making up for time when the office is closed. I think I'd like to get some clarity around. The office was closed a lot this winter for snow and heat and insulation and all sorts of reasons. And I think we need to clarify that, if you agree, that when we do that, people should be expected to make up the time because we lose a lot of time that way. And I just wanted to get a sense.
I agree with you 100% on that. I don't know, is that something we have to amend, or is it, how do we proceed with that? Kevin,
I mean, I suppose you could update the personnel policy to include some type of makeup provision.
Okay.
I'll see.
I could understand for a part-time person that they could possibly make up the time, but how could a full-time person do it? When,
Come early, leave late. Come on Saturday.
Well,
I think that they put in extra time now.
Okay, then there wouldn't be a problem.
no,
and how would you document it?
well, that's what we have to discuss, but Frank is right that just because the building's not closed doesn't mean that there's not work that has to be done or made up, because the town doesn't stop when there's weather or other issues. I mean, we're one of the 24-hour businesses that has to be maintained for our residents. So I think I mean, maybe not every position, I don't know, but we need to look at it. And Frank's right. We have to, at least establish something, because then the work just is sitting there and, things will continue to fill up. I'm sorry, Frank, you have
No, that's fine. I mean, maybe I can come up with a recommendation that you guys can shoot down, or we can set up a sub.
Do any other municipalities do this?
I don't care.
Well,
I
I'm
don't
just,
know.
well, I know, Frank, you don't care, but my thought is that maybe it would be better to see if you could find some others that do this and see how they do it.
That's a good idea, if they do.
Well, I would do that with you, Frank. If you want to set up if we would do a subcommittee, I'd be interested in looking at that.
You might also get some help from our insurer. You mentioned our insurance, Frank, and
Yes.
the online course. I mean, the last time we did a substantive overhaul of our personnel policies, it was basically driven by our insurance company. They wanted updates to sexual harassment policy and this policy and that policy. They may be a resource to give us give you some guidance there.
Okay, I'll reach out to them.
Yeah, I'll make a note to myself to check with Sharon Cooper. Maybe she can help us with that too. She's our risk manager. So
Right.
That would seem to be something that maybe she could help us with.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Frank. Dave?
Okay, I'll start out with the DPW report for tonight. They cold patch potholes throughout the township roadways. They groomed the infields at all the ball fields in the township. They took all the salt spreaders off of the trucks, repaired them as needed, and put them in storage for next winter. They made any repairs to the snow plows and put them in the storage outside in the backyard. They completed the 2015 stormwater management plan, including maintenance reports for both stormwater inlets and outfalls, and they submitted the information to the township engineer. They ground rust areas and painted the bodies on dump trucks number 20 and number 10. They also went around and repaired snowplow damage to the yards throughout the township. They took care of a tree that was down on Sinclair Avenue due to the rain and the wind. They repaired hydraulic hoses on the John Deere rubber tire loader. And just a reminder, the brush drop-off area will be closed from May 6th to May 11th due to the township-wide cleanup. And also the township-wide cleanup is May 8th and May 9th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Here at the DPW garage. And they note, please separate metal items from any other debris. Not that we won't take the metal, just keep them separate. I know any tin or iron goes in a separate dumpster to be recycled. That's all I have on the DPW report. I'll move on to the Environmental Commission. The commission met last night. We had good attendance. The main topic last night was the Musconetcon Riverside Association had approached us to enroll the portion of the Musconetcon River into the federal Wild and Scenic Program. It was discussed at great length. There were some differences of opinions amongst the members. It was put to a vote, and it did not get the support of the Environmental Commission to move forward on their recommendation. I guess we can decide on council here what it was a recommendation of the commission not to opt in per se.
Well, I just did that. I spoke to Dr. Hernandez briefly before, and I think there's some education that needs to be provided to the commission and this council, because there's some questions that I think remain
Right, there was some
unanswered.
things that were brought up that
Mhm.
were not explained or answered in full. And my feeling along with the doctors was, the benefit, we just didn't see any benefit, but, if they can answer some of those questions, maybe we'll take a look at it again.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
We also made a motion to request a final report on the spill from the car wash that drained down through the Still Valley waterway into the Powhatan Creek. I don't know when that report will become available, but that was documented that we at least would like to know, what the findings of the DEP on that were. We also discussed the community garden. The garden has been tilled up at the Shimer School. They expanded the garden a little bit. Anybody interested in that should reach out to either Rennie Melvin or Eric Person. I reached out to our local Boy Scouts last night to see if any of the Boy Scouts would be interested in that also. That was about it on the Environmental Commission. I was not in attendance at the last land use meeting. I was, along with the rest of council, over in Lopakon with the joint meeting on shared services. So I really don't have any report for the land use. I don't know who I could defer to that. It's here tonight. Anybody? Maybe Kevin Melvin, would you like to briefly?
We tabled a couple items until the April meeting. We discussed some guidelines for the land use board, which we're going to circulate amongst the members. We also discussed about making it available online. We also talked about the situation with COA and coming up with the housing algorithms. We formed a subcommittee to look at that and put in a recommendation for that. We'll have to update our plan, our housing plan. That's probably the subject.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. I'd just like to make one other note here. Kind of piggyback with Frank. I know our council here, we don't always agree, but it seems like we can work together to try to get things done. As I sat there in Lopakon's municipal building and watched how their council worked, it was just amazing. And as I said, it makes me appreciate our council that we have here and how we function. I said it was an eye-opener for me, that's for sure.
Well, I'll also say the public.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We appreciate you more.
Where's Jerry Kern? Jerry, I can't, hats off to you. You're a gentleman compared to the way some of the residents carried on. But either way, that's all I have on a lighter note.
You're a gentleman, period.
Yeah. Go ahead.
When is the dam in Warren Glen going to come out?
In Warren Glen or?
Yes.
I think it's
Warren
August or
Glen.
September. They're gonna,
That's the next
right?
dam.
That's the next, right, and that was the next thing they were going to move forward with. They were already working, I think, to secure whatever permits and stuff they needed.
I think they're looking August, September for,
They had said to us all work was going to be done from the Hunterdon County side of the
Yeah.
Musconetcon.
Oh, they're not coming on the,
That's what they had told
yeah,
us.
initially.
but that's definitely coming out, right?
Right, right.
What
Yes.
That's what they told me too. Okay, I just wanted to get that straight because I feel that it's going to help all the residents in Warren Glen,
Downstream, right?
well, from 519 going up the hill on down, if we take that dam out, because it's going to drop the water level down. Okay, long as it's continuing to.
Did they say how long it would take her? I don't remember when we met with her.
They were saying it was going to be good to go, I think September.
But I mean, how long, once they started, how long will it take? Did they feel
No,
like?
I don't think they gave us a
Time.
no.
Beth Berry, I do work for some for Beth, and their MBA is in my township, so I've helped them with some of their building issues in Franklin Township. And the issue with the Old Wild and Scenic came up, and Beth Berry said she'd be more than happy to come down here, to a meeting and elaborate further on all your questions. My general understanding was that it really didn't burden any property owners, but I think that's a good question to ask if that would have any impact along.
Well, we were to the point
Yeah,
last night,
yeah,
we
I know.
almost wanted it right.
Yeah, so she would come down. The only thing I generally understand, and I don't know how applicable it is, since our dams are basically being removed here in Blackhawk Township, but it basically gives you a couple more points when you make your applications for grants and stuff to take out structures like dams. So I don't know if we have any other dams left to take out here in Blackhawk after we get.
Yeah, there's one more.
So there's one more. So I think that would basically
Yeah.
give that application a slight boost because you're wild and scenic. Like you check that box
But
off. She would come down and talk to you.
Yeah, but here, the issue, I mean, with the dam removal, I would defer to MWA. But I think what we've identified is that we want to speak to the federal agency when it comes to the wild and scenic, because they're, they're the middleman. They obviously have a specific interest that they want to see that this is done. And I think we'd want to hear from whatever, whether it's a Park Service or, the federal DEP, whatever that may be. But that's who I think we need to meet with in respect to that. But she would come, she said she would come down for the
I
dam
mean, she
removal.
did come and meet with our commission.
Yeah.
I believe at the last meeting.
And I'll see if there's a federal contact, or maybe she knows one that could actually, so you hear it from the horse's mouth. Again, I agree.
Well-
You want to know, hey, is it going to expose us to heightened water standards, or is it going to have an impact on, residents or anything adversely? God knows there's enough regulations, so I understand that. But I'll see what I can do about getting somebody down here to elaborate on it. I don't think
We
it's.
just wanted to make sure it didn't
No,
infringe on any of the property owners that own property on the Muscatine River.
No, I agree. I don't think there's any enhanced buffers or anything with it, but we should look into it. I know one thing, but Phillipsburg sewer plant upgrade, by way of example, the Delaware, when it was classified wild and scenic, made that enormously more expensive to potentially expand their sewage treatment plant.
Well, as long as
Just
their
be-
standards higher, probably.
Because
Which was then passed on to.
So I agree with you that it's something that we should proceed with caution about, but I'll try to see if I can get somebody lined up.
Thanks. That's about all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. Mary?
Yeah, I know with Wild and Scenic, you have to be careful because they'll say anything to get you to sign up. And then once you've signed up, then the restrictions and rules start getting past that impact. So I'd be very, very careful. I did speak with our judge about the changes that have to occur in order to get the shared services agreement with Greenwich. Can you hear me okay? All right. He said that as far as the court attendant goes, that we're going to lose that for now, that we're not going to be hiring anyone. He wants to see how it goes with the one court attendant that we do have. So don't be looking, anytime soon for us to be adding another person on. Let's see. I was glad to hear about the Shimer School. That's not Shimer School, Shimer Mansion. That's cool. I'm glad to hear that the History and Heritage Society got it because I knew they'll do a fabulous job with restoring it and getting it on the proper rolls and so forth. They sent out an email and they said that they had gotten it, and they also had in that email about the cleanup in Finesville, but they also had a picture of the house. And I do believe that picture was what the house looked like when it was in good condition.
I saw that, Mayor. I think you're right.
Yeah, before it got into the sorry shape that it's in now. let's see, we all got this, and I want to know, it's coming from Public Safety, Warren County Public Safety. It's the Office of Emergency Management. And it's about, they attached a letter and documentation detailing a FEMA flood mitigation assistance grant for severe repetitive loss. And we actually have properties in our municipality that qualify. And I don't know who these belong to, but it's 475 River Road, 485 River Road, 491 River Road, and 509 River Road. So maybe it's somebody's neighbor or you know where it is, what they're talking about. But the thing that I'm not quite sure about, though, is they talk about getting the grant, but also, well, I guess they would purchase the property through this grant, but they would also tear down the houses and then have it become like, I guess the township would have to take it on as like open space, recreational, whatever, and maintain it. So I don't know who belongs to these houses. They're going to have a meeting on May 13th at 7 o'clock at the Harmony Municipal Building. So the property owners obviously should really go, and if anyone else is interested, you can go. It's open to the public. They're not saying it's a closed meeting.
Does the municipality have to support it, or could the individual property owners pursue this?
No, we have a part in this.
So we,
Mhm. Right, as a recreation area. Mhm. Right. So, yeah, we'd have obligations.
so they want a letter of support by May 4th, and we got this April 16th.
Yeah. Love it.
And as you said, it involves taking property off tax
That's
rolls.
the thing, and maybe, I don't know, are these people,
It may be great to-
addresses flooded a lot? I don't know, that they would say that they were a property that would be eligible for it, and maybe they don't want to vote. So,
I know what
Will we have to do them all, you think, Mary, or could, it's only 1 out of the 4 or 2 out of the 4?
I really don't know. It doesn't tell you that. I imagine if you went to the meeting on the 13th. You'd probably find out
Yeah, but do you
more
have to
about it.
support it to go to the meeting? That's the way I read
Oh,
this.
no, you don't. No, you could just go to the meeting.
But the letter is before the meeting date.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Oh, they
how,
want the letter.
yeah, I mean, I'm
I
not,
see what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's kind of, I don't know.
Well, it came from, what is it, June Prislak? Maybe she needs to be told to get her timeline straightened out.
It's an opportunity that they have through that company that is working with Tetra Tech. And I guess they'll basically do a lot of the work where you have to get the officials, properties and the home done, and then they'll make the payout. So the township would have a little involvement in from that aspect, but they want to know, do you support it before they reach out to the property owners to make them aware? And I
Well,
think
Knowlton and-
mostly for the property owners then.
Yeah, Knowlton and Harmony have the most homes that are eligible, and I know they have a large river section. Cohab is next with 4. So it's the 12, 8, and then we're 4. And Belvedere has 3, Blairstown 1, Hebert 1, and White Township has 2. So
we've had a 6 or 8 people who have already elevated their homes that would have been
Right.
considered substantially damaged, and that
they would be on this
definition-
list.
They would have
More.
been had they not done, elevated their homes, but the substantial damage is the term that FEMA uses for people who have had more than 50% of the cost of their home damaged by floodwaters, and they know that because of how much money FEMA has paid them through their insurance.
Well,
And then there are approximately 4 or 5 others that have not been raised, that and I did get a list of the addresses.
They list
also.
4 here.
Okay.
That's all they list is 4.
Is that fair to the people who went through the expense and to lift their properties, and then
Yeah.
these people get paid and the town gets nothing? And
Well, I don't know if
For
it's
an
even a matter
obligation
of
to-
fairness. I think, I don't know, maybe they love their house on the river, and even though things do get flooded, they still love it. So,
right, that could be too.
I don't know.
I mean, I think,
It's a nice opportunity for people to know about it.
I think it's a nice, I think it's, in theory, it's a nice concept, but I think we were left with nowhere near enough amount of time to make a decision like this to afford someone, I mean, because if we do this, that's one, a precedent, but two,
Mhm.
it could potentially take 4 homes off the tax rolls, and
Right.
then what, say there's somewhere else that we want to, there's some other program that comes down the road. I don't think we had enough time to anticipate this.
Yeah, there's some open space now along the
Exactly,
river
yep.
that's used to park trucks. I mean,
Yeah, we're being rushed, and I don't know if that's.
I think
right.
if we could send them back a letter to get an extension where we could at least explore this,
Well, she does have an email address on there.
why don't we do that then? Because, I mean, I just think it's way too quick.
Okay, Wanda, then, would you be able to do that? Email her and tell her that this came, the date it came, and we're not going to even be meeting until when things are due, and it hasn't given us enough time to really process it and think about it.
Yeah, our first meeting in May is already past it, so we couldn't even,
Yeah. All right, and speaking of our meeting in May, our first meeting in May, we've talked about meeting with LAPACOM as a joint council meeting. We will be meeting with them again at our May meeting, only we will be meeting with them at 6 o'clock. So it's a public meeting, though. It will be advertised, so anybody who's interested in coming and hearing, and I'm hoping it'll be better because Jim will be chairing it instead of their mayor. So I think that makes a difference. So hopefully it'll be better than the last
I
meeting.
don't think anything will make it.
We can only try. And let's see, what else do I have? I told you about the court attendant, Schreimer, the meeting at 6. Okay, and then that. And all right, now the police. All right, this is the report from March 17th to April 20th. So the police department did respond to 592 calls for service. They issued 227 traffic summonses, and they did make 34 arrests. The criminal investigation unit opened 30 new cases. They did investigate 23 motor vehicle crashes. And Chief, are they at any of our favorite intersections? Spread out, okay. And on March 28th, I think I told you this the last time, they did have the 21st annual Easter egg hunt at the Powhatan School. And the children, of course, love that. And they always have a good time, and they love winning the prizes. The department completed their quarterly rifle qualifications and currently in the process of completing state mandated. I love it when they use acronyms like MATS. I have no clue what it stands for.
Mandatory agency training.
Okay. And all training, though, should be completed by this Friday, April 24th. This week, the department also will participate in the Sticker Shock campaign. And in connection with the community prevention resources of Warren County, an officer will help Cohasset liquor store employees. I like this other part, and the kids, place stickers on bottles. Is that legal?
Well, there's stickers for acknowledging that there's probably underage drinking.
Okay. All right. Yes, it is on bottles of beer and wine. So, yeah, the kids won't be opening them or
They won't
drinking
be
them, so I guess that's all right. Reminding everyone about the dangers of underage drinking. And the goal of this campaign, though, is to make lasting changes in the attitudes and behaviors our community has towards underage drinking and tobacco use. And that is the report. I have enough to say today.
thank you. Sal?
Okay, we're going to, as of now, the Shimer School. We're going to keep it. I feel we should sell it.
We've met with realtors, so
We're working on
yeah.
it, Sal.
You're working on it.
Every week we tell you, we'll work for it.
I know, but I don't see
Well,
no
until there's
action.
something definite.
I had a conversation at church yesterday with the man we're working with, so we are still working, Sal.
Okay,
We have to explore the restrictions it's put on the school and see what potential it has and what we can do with it.
Yeah, and I had a conference call with Jeff Fiedler and Henry at Fiedler's office just yesterday, and they wanted to know the status. And I said basically, look, I said with this new Supreme Court decision and the fact that we're going to have a new increased potentially number in terms of affordable housing, the township will, I'm sure, will be taking a close look at the zoning out there. One thing they suggest, and one thing that might actually be feasible out there, and we'll take a look at with our planner, is having an affordable housing specific zone in part for that property that would allow it to be maximized in terms of the number of affordable housing units you could put there. So,
And also, they talked about enough land that they could also build additional.
yes,
Now, my question is, but that's where our municipal garden is.
that's totally up to you guys whether you decide to permit.
So if we do get rid of the building, is there something you can either put in the deed, or is there something we can do that we can keep? Because I don't know of any other place in the township that would be such an ideal spot for it.
Yeah, we would certainly have flexibility in what we convey the property, we can reserve an easement for the garden if you want, or, you have multiple directions to go there. But they were just pointing out that, hey, the acreage is
Well, but the
sufficient for
thing
them
too is, here's a plus. It's affordable housing, so whoever is there, if they're ambulatory, they certainly could also use the garden.
There you go. What else you got, Sal?
Okay, let's go back to the Carpenter house. We had a policeman go there to secure the building. It's in such bad shape. He didn't go in. He was afraid he was gonna fall right through the floor. It's loaded with water, and I don't want to take another property off the tax rolls. What we're doing, if we go ahead and, I don't know, what kind of deal did you,
Well, the town isn't purchasing that property.
who is?
The Heritage and Historic Society is purchasing.
They're
Getting a donation that donated to
It's
that.
been donated to
Yeah.
that.
Well, you're going to need, I estimate between $500,000 to $1 million to fix that place up. It's in such bad shape. Those trees, you're going to need special saws to cut those trees down. Someone's going to get hurt. And I don't want to see a property go off the tax rolls. That's a valuable piece of property, and we should keep it on the tax roll.
Going to a nonprofit.
Sal, there's the first issue is Michael Margulies seems to think he can do it for a significantly less figure than what you just said, and Michael is an architect, so I would defer to his judgment
Or
on that.
historical.
Yeah,
architect.
historical architect. Now,
Well,
I think the money's probably right, but I think Michael's demonstrated ability to get grants.
Yeah.
I don't think,
Our
what
town money will be nothing. It should be nothing.
Yeah, we're not.
do you mean? I don't want to spend 2 cents.
we're
No,
not.
That's what I just said.
We're not.
I don't want to spend, it's a valuable piece of property, and we should put it on an economic,
But Sal, that's a
Roll.
private transaction that we have no jurisdiction over that. I mean, you could, speak your piece to them privately, but we have no control over that. That's a private transaction.
You are correct that it will involve costs, just like we're talking about these river houses, and that's in the sense that it won't be on the tax roll anymore. You're correct there.
that's right. I'm correct in everything I say.
Sometimes.
Okay, I feel we're making, someone's going to definitely get hurt on that property. And we have to worry about VIP cleaners, those trees falling on top of that cleaners. I don't see how volunteers could do that job. I just
Well-
cannot see it.
Well, first of all, there shouldn't be anybody on the property because they'd be trespassing. And those trees have been there quite a while, with the cleaners being there quite a while, so maybe the trees will be okay a little longer.
I think Michael did talk about hiring professionals to
Yes, he
remove
did.
trees. And they'd have to be expensive professionals because they're difficult
You know,
locations.
we're always worried about money, and which is rightfully so.
Right.
But this is one piece of property that should, in the township, that should stay on the tax rolls. Okay, the ball fields, they're in pretty good shape. They're working on them. The road crew is working on them. Now, Kevin, you're still working on these two bills, right?
Yeah, just check my phone, Sal. I have the picture of the article. I'll look at those bills tomorrow.
No,
for you.
I went
I have a new
Look
rate.
at,
Yep.
because that's very important if we draw up another ordinance.
I will get back to you tomorrow.
Okay, the dam in Warren Glen, we're going to find out. Now for some good news, which I think I'm going to take advantage of too. They're having Optical Academy eye exam for glasses and contacts at an inexpensive price in Holland Township. And we could all take advantage of this here program that Holland Township will have on May the 4th. Eye exams are $30 and lens and frames for $29. You can't beat that deal. So pass it along to your friends, even though that you don't take advantage of it. Maybe you have a friend that would take advantage of this here program. For $60, you just can't go wrong. It's on May the 4th.
What time?
What time? Let's see. From 2:30 to 8 o'clock.
At Holland School?
Yes.
And it is a fundraiser. So I guess for every so many people, they get free, I guess, the glasses and so forth, like for children who cannot afford it. So it's low in cost for people to go, but also it benefits children in need.
If anyone would like to have a copy of this, I'll have Wanda make it up on our machine. And then you could have it, and you have to call up, and it's a good deal. I think I'm pretty sure of taking advantage of it. Okay, I'll meet with you, Gwen, on that drainage in Finesville, right? Okay. The drainage in Finesville, I went up to see the county 4 different times so far, but I can't get the first base yet. But I'm still trying. I'm not going to give up. Okay, we all know about the garbage on Edge Road and other parts of the township. We have to apprehend these people that throw all this garbage out, and I need your help to keep the township clean.
I'd like to make note here, the county may potentially, they're looking into having another county-wide tire cleanup. Talked at the last county board of ag meeting I was at, there's some grant money available for tire cleanup. They've had it a couple times in the past, so if they do come through with that, I'll make sure I make everybody aware.
That's great. That's great.
Last time it was held, I think, up at Oxford at the landfill, and they took tires regardless of whether they were on rims or off rims.
Now, they're building approximately 150 apartments in Lopakon Township, and they're going to use the ring road around the mall if you looked at that ring road right now, today, it looks like you're going through a battlefield. Those holes, some of them are 10, 12 inches deep. Could you imagine what's going to happen once those apartments are built? They better not come to Pohat, because we're not going to spend 2 cents on that. And I'm glad we're so far protecting the people in the Parkside area, because they would get inundated with traffic. And the potholes are really bad around here, I'll tell you. Melix Woods Road, that road there. Just ride down that road. It looks like heck too. The condition of the properties, but we'll start working on Melix Woods Road too. We're working down on 627, the condition of some of these homes, but it just takes time when you have to follow the law. You just can't go in there and do anything you want. You just have to follow the law. And it just takes time. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what it does. You know, we spend a lot of time up here, but when you have time, just drive down the road and you'll see. Now, if anybody would like a copy of these, this eye examination, just let me know and I'll have Wanda make you a copy. Okay, Kevin, you know what to do, right?
Yes.
And I know what to do. That's all I have.
Thank you, Sal. You know, Chief, Sal did bring up a good point. When that housing development comes in, we have to make sure that the mall closes that gate there in the Parkside, because it already, I mean, residents, I get phone calls when that is opened up now, so imagine if there's a bunch of homes. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what we have to do to stop. Yeah, I mean,
Is there a shackle on it or
well, the
not?
problem is that the fire company,
And there's a horse that goes across, and there's a barricade that goes across. You know, when people walk through, for whatever reason, they push it open. Cars aren't going through there now because the cable's there.
yeah.
But sometimes they take the cable down, then it becomes access.
But there's no padlock on it. We can't lock it.
Right now, there's nothing on it now.
I mean, if there would be a fire, that was.
We could do that.
That's how the fire company gets up there.
Right,
That's their
the
access
potential, like,
route.
Fire company.
It's something we should really look at on fixing, because that could be a problem. It will be a problem.
The gate, that's bad.
I know.
When you push it, you actually got to pick it up and walk it over.
Chief, if we get Still Valley Arch repaired permanently, there's 2 gates down there they can come and take down and put up there.
There you go.
Well, and that's
the-
another option.
yeah.
I agree, Peter.
Yeah, and they got to get there, and they don't have time to.
Do you have any suggestions, Petey, what we could do to,
Yeah, send them a letter, come and put a nice new gate up that operates. We give them all that money back in taxes, come fix the property up.
combination lock on it that you guys would know?
I
Or,
mean, we put our own locks on it.
so you'd be,
Somehow they end up, their maintenance crew.
you'd,
Half the time, they don't even clean it in the winter time.
you'd be okay though with keeping your padlock on it then?
That's a good idea. Let's do that then. Let's address them a
Give
letter.
them all that tax money back that they won, they could put a couple bucks into that property.
I agree with him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Real quick, we got finally our recodification completed from the general code, so we'll finally be able to meet now with our subcommittee on the township ordinance book. We'll be sending out the PDFs for everyone to look. It's pretty good. It took care of a lot of the legal issues as far as referring to the town as committee or the CFO as treasurer, but the bigger issues is some things that we'll have to address, and then the town council will have to ultimately vote on. But this has been a long time coming, and it's finally done.
Jim, in that review, are we going to address, I know almost every meeting, there's some discussion about the derelict houses and stuff like that. Is that going to be part of that?
Yeah, it actually, there's a specific mention to that. And the nice thing is if we do a recodification like this, it counts as one amendment to your code book. So if we do like a collective change, it's less advertising cost. The work's already done, so it'll be very comprehensive. And when it comes up to council, then we can hash it out and really. But I got a PDF of it, and I'll be forwarding it to council for everyone's review. Because I only got hard copies, and I personally like just the digital. So I got that late yesterday.
Some of us like hard copies.
Well, you
Can I
can,
have the hard one back then? Because we only got 3 of those.
yeah, absolutely.
Because our professionals will make them ultimately then too.
Well, I think Kevin will be good with PDF. I know he will be.
I would be.
Second, this is to the code book. I had a brief discussion with Kevin about it last week. We have in our code book, it's a special events permit. And I would implore council to read this because it seems very overreaching as far as what it requires businesses to do. I mean, you see on the agenda tonight, it says to approve a special event permit for Quaker Steak and Lube for gatherings of automobiles and motorcycles on their patio. First of all, the parking lot is private property, and we're regulating what they can and can't do as far as, you know, they have to get a permit to have people come. I mean, I understand if we have to have a situation where there's involvement of directing traffic or things like that with some of the vineyards, but I spoke to some of the owners down there, and there's some situations where it doesn't make sense that they have to go through this, and there's some that are. And I think, quite frankly, it's a very burdensome ordinance that needs to be looked
I
at.
understand what you're saying, but when they got their approvals from land use, a certain proportion of their property has to be for parking, so many spaces, so much handicap, so forth. And so when they do these special things, it's taking that away. So therefore, that's why I think why they would have to get some sort of permission, because they're circumventing what land use gave them permission to have,
I'm just,
even though it is private property.
no. Anytime you have to direct traffic or something like that, that's understandable during certain hours. But to me, if you're having an event on private property and you're charging people for it, I don't understand why the township has to have. I mean, there's arbitrary numbers set up for how many people that are going to these events. That's how we came up with the permit. It's only been since 2006, so it's not like it's been around forever. I just think it's something, when we're doing this recodification, I think, Kevin, you kind of were of that same persuasion that it seemed a little much as far as, and quite frankly, I don't even think we have to do the Quaker Steak and Lube application, because I don't think it would apply to them. In my opinion, I don't know if you would agree with that.
I think I was asked to draft this ordinance several years ago when it came on the books, and I think, Chief, I think it was probably Alba Vineyards that precipitated at the time, because as I recall, there was a need for our police department to monitor the ins and outs of traffic there. And I think at the time that then council's concern was, hey, wait a minute, there's overtime, there's expense involved with that. There's also a safety issue there. So that was, I think, the impetus for it. But that had to do more with use of the public road that Alba Vineyard was on. With respect to Quaker Steak, it probably is a little bit of a stretch, because you're coming in off a county road or a state road, and you're in, like you said, a private parking lot. I don't know, Chief, what precipitated their application, if somebody told them to do it, or you did, or I'm not sure.
I just think that
Have they applied to you?
I did, because we've done it for years. Every time Walmart has their park uses or sidewalk sales, Club Metro, anything in the
Bring in
parking
trailers
lot.
or
So-
special sales, Sears.
Yeah, we've always done
They've
it.
always come to land
On
use.
the circus.
Well, I think that the problem is we have this ordinance. I mean, the circus is a huge
Well,
undertaking.
maybe it needs tweaking.
It absolutely needs to. I don't think this is, I think that, especially for some of the, Quaker Steak's a bigger company, but for the smaller businesses, anything that we can do to detract from this. I mean, I think this ordinance was done for one situation I think it was, there's a fly and you take a dictionary to swat it.
That
It
would
just,
be a good thing for economic advisory to take a look at.
no, absolutely, but I'm just saying that it is something that needs to be addressed. I think it's way too burdensome.
Chief, do we have any issues generally with like the sidewalk sales and stuff at these malls? I don't know that really involves any traffic by you guys.
I mean, a little bit. It's not bad. Yeah. Chick-fil-A had an event. That went fine. The biggest problem that we have is the traffic with Alabama.
Right.
There's a lot of traffic that comes out there. We're trying to get people, they're coming from behind you, they're coming by you.
Look, I will take.
It's not an issue. I mean, we're able to handle it. But as far as the other places go,
I haven't looked at that. Yeah, I haven't looked at that ordinance in a long time, but I'll take a look at it, Mayor, and see perhaps I can recommend some tightening it up a little bit, because I kind of agree with you in a big mall parking lot to go through this procedure for an old time car get together or something. It seems probably a bit much, so I'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you. I mean, we will when it goes to the
Yeah,
codification, but just
we
keep.
can do that quicker if we need to.
Yeah. Another note, this is happening right now in Hunterdon County. They are closing a portion of 519 in Holland Township for a significant period of time. It hasn't been stated for how long they're going to do it, but I think it's something that we need to be concerned about in Pahokong Township. One, for where that's going to divert the traffic, and two, what, if any, type of impact, we could see to our businesses. So if we can be stewards to see what's going on with this.
Do you know which part of?
I don't. I just saw that they're closing, and I had heard this that they're.
Supposed to widen the road going up the hill.
Yeah.
Oh, is that, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I know that, they've been talking about that for like
And
forever.
I think they were saying upwards to a year the road would be closed. So that's just 2 year. I mean, that's a significant portion. So I don't know, Gwen. Can you follow up and find it? Ah.
So I can show you the limits and get a copy of the detour plan for you.
That would be wonderful. And is that definitely going to happen? It looks like they'll have to.
I don't know that they even have money available for it, and I think that they haven't gone through Green Acres yet, which
Okay.
Well, they do have the
possibly
signs up.
All right.
It's such small print, you can't read them.
signs that the road is being closed. It's not anything that's happening this year,
I don't know, you can't read
unless
them.
there's a different project maybe that they're doing. Maybe there's a bridge on the road that they're.
I don't know, it's too small. It's like there's one going up and then coming down, there's one.
Yeah.
Before you
Like a
go
legal
down.
notification.
And, but like I said, it's too small. You're driving past it, you can't even catch the dates on it.
Okay. And the only other thing I wanted to say was on the, Kevin had already mentioned it, but I think we should table this proposal from Higher Gruel. Again,
I agree.
we got it.
Yes.
Questions about the money.
Yeah.
Well, not just, I mean, again, I think what we have to again establish this is that a lot of these issues are very complicated, and none of us should and can be expected to digest them in a short period of time. And I think we have to set that expectation. It's nice that we're not like Congress and we try to read things before we vote on them. So let's, I don't know how we can even approve that tonight. And I think we have to table it, unfortunately. But that's all I have. I think, were we going to, Frank, is that on the agenda, what we were going to table? I can't even see it.
The resolution, I think we talked about tabling that first resolution because we've got so much with the budget going on.
Yeah, I would like to table that resolution too. That
The
first,
first one?
yeah, till after the budget.
It's not a big deal, but it'll take another 20 minutes. It's already going to be a long meeting.
Yeah, let's
So-
table that.
So and it can be done next.
Okay.
You want to make a motion to table that?
Are we-
Yeah, I'll move it.
Okay, we're not under any special time frame for any of this, right?
No, we're
We
fine.
are, but we're still okay.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Becker?
Yes.
Black?
Yes.
Greenwood?
Okay, you're just talking
Yeah.
about the first one, correct?
Yes, just the
Okay,
first one.
Yes.
Vangelli?
Yes.
And Kern?
Yes. Okay, do I have a
I'll
motion?
move the second resolution.
Okay.
And that is going with what we were directed to do from the court, the higher up court, and that is to lose Walter Lower as our court assistant. He just attended.
I did note for the record in the resolution, by the way.
That he did a
we
wonderful
thanked
job.
him for his service
Yeah.
and commended his performance. Again, this is not a performance
No.
issue, and we're sorry to lose him, but our hand has been forced.
Our court moves so smoothly. It's like clockwork. It just goes.
Well, this is just an example of the state flexing
And they don't
their
know.
muscles.
They're ignorant.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Becker,
Yes.
Slack,
Yes.
Van Wert,
Yes.
Angeli,
Yes.
and Kern.
Yes. Okay. Hearing and adoption of the 2015 budget as approved by mayor and council March 17th. So,
Okay, so we move.
no, we're
open-
gonna have a presentation first, correct, Lauren? Is that
Yes, if you're ready.
how we're gonna do it? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There
you go.
That's not fair. Oh,
They
that's
told me earlier today.
Okay, go.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, I'm just going to talk very, very briefly about our 2015 budget that has been introduced, that is up for public hearing tonight and hopefully later adoption. We had several meetings earlier this year where we discussed in great detail the budget and the whole decision-making process. So tonight's just a very brief overview. Before we get to our 2015 budget, it's good to take a look back at 2014 and see the impact of our actual taxes. In 2014, our taxpayers contributed a total of $12,788,000 to support government functions in the county, school, and municipal governments. The school received $6 million from your taxes, the county $2.8 million, and our local municipal government received $3.9 million. This little pie chart graphically demonstrates the portion that everyone receives of the pie. You can see the school gets almost half of your taxes, the county and the municipal government share what's left. To start with our municipal revenues, in New Jersey, we're required to have a balanced budget. That means that our revenues or anticipated receipts have to equal our expenses or our appropriations, where we think we're going to spend your money. In 2015, 80% of our receipts are coming from taxes. And when I say taxes, I mean the 2015 current year taxes, the delinquent taxes, which are from prior years that we anticipate to collect this year, and the interest on delinquent taxes. About 10% of our local revenue comes from surplus. We did discuss this early in the year as well. Surplus is really our cumulative savings from all of our prior years of operation. We have a relatively strong reliance and use of our surplus. Our beginning balance in 2015 was just a little over $1 million. Using $550,000 in this year's budget, we were offsetting a higher tax increase. Since our budget gets tighter every year and we maximize and cut as much as possible, we are not generating or rebuilding as much surplus as we had in prior years. So if our operations end flat this year, we'll only have $450,000 to anticipate in 2016 to offset tax increases for next year. Looking at the surplus usage, the governing body has tried to carefully balance this year's needs with future years' needs. Our state aid for our revenues makes up about 6% of our local revenue. That's kind of farcical because in our actual state aid, we have about $6,000. And we have garden state aid, which I'm not even quite sure what that is, about $5,000. The energy receipts I had noted in prior years, that used to be a local revenue years and years ago, but the state government thought that they'd be so much more efficient than us in collecting it, so they return it to us under the guise of state aid. So you can see almost 41,000 of the 351,000 is really a local revenue that the state originally took from us. Our actual local revenue consists of our court fines, alcohol licenses, and a whopping $600 of interest on all the money that we keep in the bank. Grants have an equal appropriation, so they're, even though it looks like we have $62,000 of revenue, we have the same exact amount of an appropriation offset in the budget. The bulk of our grants are for our police department. The Safe and Secure, Body Armor, and Drunk Driving Enforcement are all police grants. Clean Communities and Recycling Tonnage are pretty much exactly what they say, to keep our community clean and help pay for recycling. The Alcohol Education is a court grant. If we look back over the last 5 years for our revenue trends, we can see that taxes have always pretty much dominated our revenues. While our taxes have been relatively stable over the last 4 years, this year our introduced budget did have a 4.5-cent increase approximately, and that's about $157,000. We did have a spike in 2013 for our surplus usage because we had a lot of unanticipated revenue that came in 2012 that we did use in 2013. State aid is relatively flat. Miraculously, the amount of actual state aid that we get pretty much decreases every year, but somehow the energy receipts automatically increase so that our state aid stays pretty flat. Our local receipts have varied widely as we've had some pretty significant changes in the past 5 years. We did previously have a contribution from Alpha towards our police coverage. That was in 2011 and weaned off in 2012. I'm sorry, and it stopped in 2013. And that's just when the red light cameras started to take place and have some revenues come in from that. In 2015, you can see it drops to almost nothing as both Alpha and the red light cameras are fully phased out. As noted before, the grant revenues are equally offset. There was a decent amount in 2011. We had some DOT grants that affected that number. When we look at our appropriations, if we look at everything all mashed together by department, it gives us a lot of information, but it's not really clear what it really means. So if anybody wants a copy of the slide, I'll be happy to provide it to you. You can look up your favorite department like finance and see that it cost you $52,000 of everyone's taxes. When you have that much information, you can stick it into a really pretty pie chart, but it doesn't mean very much because it's all mashed together. So what I did this year is I grouped the departments into like a service type. And in my opinion, at least, I think that this data is a little bit easier digested. You can see that your administrative offices cost you about $346,000. That consists of your governing body, your council, the clerk, finance, tax collection and assessment, historical, environmental, and land use boards. Your professional services are made up of your auditing, your legal, engineering, judgments, and litigation. Safety is police, the fire companies, the emergency squad, the prosecutor, court, and animal control. Property maintenance is public property, Department of Public Works, recycling, buildings and grounds, parks, construction and zoning. Utilities are the utilities that we pay as a municipality, the electric, the street lighting, gas, diesel, water, and phones. The employer expenses include compensated absences, medical insurance, pension costs, and payroll taxes. Debt is made up of our interest and principal that we pay for our notes and bonds. And the biggest item that I'd like to put out on, talk about on this slide is the RUT. I've mentioned it before, but for people that weren't here previous years, we had an acronym, I guess it is, for Reserve for Uncollected Taxes. It's a non-spending appropriation that you as taxpayers have pretty much 100% control over. Because we collect county and school taxes at 100%, we have to pay 100% to the school and county. And I'm sure a lot of you know that not every taxpayer pays 100% of their taxes every year. So we have to raise more than what we actually need in our budget to anticipate and cover those taxpayers that don't make a payment. In 2015, our RUT decreased to $575,000 from $660,000. What that means is that we have to raise $575,000 more than what we actually need to account for those that don't pay their taxes. That equates to about 16 cents on your taxes. So if everybody talks to their friends and neighbors and had them pay their taxes on time by December 30th, you could effectively see a tax reduction. From 2014 to 2015, we actually saved 2.44 cents in your taxes because we had a better collection rate. This pie graph shows the portion that each service type takes up from our municipal budget. You can see safety is overwhelmingly the largest portion of our expenses at 35%. That's more than double the next closest expense that we have, which is employer costs. While Governor Christie made a big effort, he actually did get somewhere, and he did reduce our pension costs. But there's always a way that we can look to save more money in our employment costs.
Excuse me, Lorraine. You can also look at employer costs as being parts of those other pieces too. I mean, like for example, pensions. I mean, there's some pensions that go into safety for police officers. There's some pensions that go into administrative for same thing with health. I mean, so if you look at the total cost of safety or administration or whatever, they could be slightly larger if the employer cost was distributed among them.
That's true. If we look at our 5-year history of spending by service type, most of our departments or service types are pretty flat in change. The utilities show that we have tightened our belts and reduced our costs in 2015. The same as our RUT has a slight decrease. Our deferred charges pretty much resulted from the increase from our large tax appeal that we're funding over 5 years. We have some 5-year litigation also still being funded and deficits in our trust that we're now proactively funding. Property had a decent spike in 2014 because we did have a lot of road paving that was budgeted for. We had a DOT grant and some equipment capital investments. In 2015, you might notice that property has diminished quite rapidly there. We'll be using some capital reserves that accumulated over a lot of prior years to assist in our current year funding. That's a one-time savings that we won't be able to take advantage of in future years. Safety had a large spike in 2012 as Alpha started to fade and the red light camera expenses started to come in. 2015 does decrease for safety as the contractual concessions were made to help balance a tough year in tax increases. Another way to look at our budget data, as Councilman Becker just noted, was to look at our actual labor costs. During the deliberations, the governing body spoke very frequently about how much our employees cost. We have a labor cost of about $2.8 million. That's a little over half of our actual budget that goes to support the employees in some way, whether it's salaries, pensions, insurance, all sorts of things are factored into that. This year, we did start measuring a little differently. Each of our departments, we tried to come up with benchmarks so that we could measure the efficiency of each department. It's just getting started, but it is giving the governing body another tool that they can use to improve efficiency in each of the departments and hopefully decrease the impact of labor costs in future budgets. Because labor does make up half of our budget, the governing body looked at a lot of different ways to decrease the growing costs. They looked at limiting full-time employment to reduce medical insurance costs. They are self-insured to reduce medical costs. They looked into sharing administrative staff, which is still ongoing now. Even though they decided against it at the budget introduction time, they did look at reducing staff levels. They negotiated with labor unions for givebacks. They have administered all the employee contributions to increase the amount that employees contribute towards medical insurance. And they implemented the reforms that Governor Christie and the state put through to reduce pension costs. If we look at the 5-year labor appropriations trend, we can see everything is pretty static. There's some variations, but not a lot. The accumulated absences on the far right there, we just started making an appropriation towards that in 2013. It's only $10,000, so it doesn't show up very much, but it does help offset future liability for retirement costs. The last couple of slides, I'm going to speed up because my battery's dying now, deal with our sewer utility budget. Our overall sewer utility budget is $860,000, and you can see that 86% of that is funded by our user fees, the amount that you contribute and pay towards your sewer bills to the township. Our sewer appropriations are also pretty straightforward. For our revenue trend, you can see everything is very static. The user fees are dependent upon the actual usage, so they do vary slightly year to year, and surplus is actually acting as it's supposed to. It's offsetting the highs and lows of our sewer revenue so that we don't have a fluctuation in our rates. Our sewer utility appropriations, the hugest amount of that is our other expenses, which is about 73% of the actual budget. The salary and wages included in this are for our sewer collector and a portion of our Department of Public Works. Out of that 73%, that's made up predominantly of sewage treatment. That is about 88% that goes towards that. Our 3-year trend there shows that miscellaneous expenses have decreased. We used to not budget as exactly and precisely as we do now, so those expenses are now being proportioned into the proper categories. And we've had pretty conservative spending in utility, and that's made it possible for us to withstand the increases that are passed on to us for sewage treatment and not increase any of our fees to our consumers. And that's actually all I have.
That was very well done.
That was fast.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we procedurally, does council have any more discussion? Do we let it go to the public first, or how do we?
You do have to open it for your public hearing.
Okay.
If you have any changes that you'd like to make, you would make them
After the public hearing portion? Okay.
Almost like an ordinance. We'll open the public, we'll close the public for the discussion and go from there.
Gotcha.
So I move that we open to public comment on the budget, proposed budget.
There a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. We just ask that you come up, sign your name in. It's public comment, so just please make your comment. There's a lot of people here, so you'll be held to 5 minutes. And take a hand if anyone wants to come up and make a public comment for the record on the budget. Sir.
I'm Charlie Asbury. I live down in Finesville. And I'll do this later. There was a lot of discussion last time about police and about the amount of services that they provide, that are provided to the people, to the businesses on 22. There was discussion of numbers of people that were in the police department. I noticed that in this discussion of the budget, that's buried. Is there any information you can provide us? Did you change the number of people at all, or was there anything done as a result of the discussions a month ago to change, to consider tightening the budget in that area, which is our largest expense?
I'll let you do your whole comment and then we'll respond.
Okay.
Just so you can do it, yeah.
All right. Other pieces of that. Well, part of the comment is we have a particular organization that uses a lot of our police services. It doesn't pay anywhere near what it costs to do that. Are we constrained by our contractual relationships with those people not to charge them for the services that they use? There was comments made by the police chief about the fact that the citizens that live here, that it's a relatively small portion of the policing that goes to that, and it's a large portion that goes to areas along 22. Also, I neglected last time to comment. I thought that the part-time person was brought on to when that person was brought on, they were brought on to review the red light camera infractions and do whatever had to be done with those. The red light is gone. Is that person gone? So I'm interested to know if the council listened to the many comments made, some of them mine, last time about the large increase in the budget, which we just saw. By the way, that was a really nice presentation. Can we have copies of it electronically? Sure. That would be great. It's hard to
Maybe,
comment
just the
on,
website.
on
Yeah, we'll throw it
what
up.
you're doing if we don't have the details about how you responded to our discussion a month ago. So perhaps the council can tell us how you responded. Did you listen to us or not?
Thank you. Just very briefly to respond, the first is that this budget does include no staffing reductions. And second, Kevin and I had sent Kevin an ordinance from another municipality that kind of already invented the wheel on charging commercial properties that call the police X amount of times. We can charge them per call. So we're looking into establishing that here in Powhatan Township to charge businesses who call so many times.
Call repeatedly.
Yeah.
And we did pass an ordinance to make them hire a security
Yeah.
guard.
And I neglected one other thing. There are options to do policing together with other municipalities that I know we did something with Alpha, and Alpha decided we were too expensive. But there are other communities like Greenwich, like Phillipsburg, that we might save money by doing things cooperatively with them. And I didn't hear anything about that last time, about looking into those.
I would just say we're in active discussions with some municipalities about police coverage.
Okay,
That's
I'm going to write my name down now.
Any other public comment on the municipal budget? Yeah, right there.
My name is Shirley Quarter. I live on Shackletown Road. I don't have the luxury of having city or sewer. I want to know, does the whole town pay for that? Or does just the people that use it pay for that?
Just the users.
Pardon me?
Just the users who use sewer.
Oh, so we don't.
You don't know.
Oh, all right, that's what I want to find out. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other public comment on the municipal budget?
Jerry Kern. I'm against this budget in its present form. I think I made it clear last time, but I'll repeat myself. I'm against the budget increase, first off. But if you so choose to keep the budget increase, I think it needs to be spread out among all taxpayers. Presently, let me first say, at the earlier budget hearings, Mr. Becker, Councilman Becker, asked the road department head, Donnie, if how much sewer work do they perform on an average day? And he said little to none. Sewer folks are being charged for one employee for years, 360 days a year, to pay for that person when they do little to none sewer work at all. That in itself is robbery, as far as I'm concerned. Years ago, when they changed sewer from a flat rate to flow base, they told us that we needed to save more money. So we were also going to be charged, which you said we pay a fee per use, which is correct, but we also pay a $50 charge with every bill. And that money, we were told back then, was going to be used for when we needed sewer work done. The reason that happened, we were hit with, I guess there was a lot of water infiltration into our sewer at the time, and we were being taxed heavy by Phillipsburg. So we had to take out a loan. So we didn't have to take out a loan in future to prepare ourselves for any other future problems. We had to pay this extra money, sewer people only, so that we would have the money in place when another problem came. But I find in this budget, this council's comfortable with taking that money that we were preparing for future use if we had problems, so we didn't have to go borrow money, that just sewer people were paying, You're comfortable with the fact that taking that and trying to pay debt because you're unwilling to stop the spending. I don't think that's fair. If you want to keep the spending, I'm against that. But at least spread that debt amongst all sewer or all taxpayers or the residents of Powhatan. How can you feel comfortable with just burdening the sewer people by taking that money? I have a big problem with that, and I'd like to hear an answer from the council members why you're comfortable with just charging the sewer people with that fee and not spreading it out amongst all residents. Thank you. I hope you vote no.
Thank you. Any other public comment on the municipal budget? Yes, sir.
I think that during previous hearings, the question was asked in preparation to the vote where this was the budget that ensured no layoffs. And I'm disappointed that that question was phrased that way. I think it should have been asked, is this the best budget that we can pass for the taxpayers of the town? Whether it produces layoffs or not would be a secondary issue. The other issue that I have is with the significant amount of surplus that is being used in this budget, which by an excellent presentation also, may I say, I believe it's over 50% of the surplus. That means this is a one-time shot. You don't have that surplus anymore. You only have 450 for next year, and then it's zero after that, I would guess. And we're not building any. So that, in fact, we're using that surplus to diminish the impact of this budget. We're, in a way, hiding a little nut behind the shell. And I think that Mr. Kern made a good point that if you want to proceed with the tax increase, if you want to proceed with the spending, I guess is really, the tax increase has to reflect that. You can't hide it by using the surplus. So I would say, you don't want to have any layoffs, that's a political decision, but then that's going to cost money, and that has to be reflected in the budget. The surplus should be reserved for a true rainy day emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on the municipal budget?
My name's Trish Becker. I live at 51 Creek Road, and my husband is on council. First of all, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to mention that the rules of the game for public comment tonight seem to be elastic. When Anthony Goodell, who was a police officer who...
We're going to comment on the budget for right now. The budget.
Right. Well, part of that is public comment about the budget.
On
okay?
the budget. So speak to an issue on the budget itself.
Well, what I'm saying is that, and I have several issues to talk about, but you said you're limiting it to 5 minutes, and when other people commented about the budget, you let them go on, you let them ask questions, you answered questions, they went to another topic, so you're not being consistent. So that's number one. I'm very disappointed with this budget. I think that you have not made the tough decisions. You haven't made the tough cuts for the budget. I think that we have 1,350 residential households in the township who pay taxes. We have 12 full-time and 1 part-time police officer. The median salary for a police officer here is $118,000. The median income for a head of household male is in the township is $53,000. It's less than half. Okay, you have a number which I saw tonight, a RUT number of $575,000 for unpaid taxes. My feeling is that if you increase taxes by not making the tough decision about laying off police, which I think we have too many of, that RUT number is just going to go higher, okay? Like Mary Van Loo, personally, I can afford a tax increase. But that's not the point. One of the biggest things we can do as human beings is to be an advocate for those who are not in that position. And that's who I'm speaking for tonight, okay? What I think is that members on council have not looked at this clearly. They've been clouded by, their judgment in this area has been clouded by cronyism. I ask, where did the police do their rifle training? I think, Councilman Slack, they do it on your farm property. I go on the police Facebook page, which I think is terrific. I want to see, you know, what kinds of crime are happening in the township. And what I see there is, I see an announcement and a link to the mayor's Facebook page, James Kern III, politician. Well, he's running for election this year. So I get this feeling that it's unseemly that, well, I'm not going to vote to cut a police officer, and then the police turn around and say, well, you scratch my back, I'm going to scratch your back, and I'm going to advertise your website, Facebook page, on our Facebook page. And it just doesn't seem right. It just does not seem right. I think we have overpaid positions. Why do we have to have 2 detectives? If you look at the hierarchy within the police force, why do we have to have so many chiefs? I don't get that. And I don't mean that literally. We have 1 police chief, I know that. But the higher level officers, I think people should be encouraged to either retire or that there are cuts because those individuals, I feel, can, they're going to get a great pension, the ones who retire, and the others can find employment. We have so many fixed income people who live in our township who I'm trying to be an advocate for and who my husband has been an advocate for, who can't pay, and this is going to put them under. So I want you to seriously, seriously consider this when you vote for this budget. And just because you vote on this budget tonight, even if you don't make these cuts because you don't have the courage to do so, remember that just because you have that budget doesn't mean you have to spend that money. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Name's Jim Crilly. I live on Parkside Avenue. I just want to say that I support your budget. I appreciate the hard work you guys did putting into it. I know Chief made a bunch of cuts to his budget. DPW, I'm sure they made a bunch of cuts, and I know you guys did what you had to do to make ends meet, especially since you lost the red light cameras, you lost revenue from the mall. So I appreciate the work you guys did to make sure there was no layoffs. I don't want to see layoffs, especially, you know, from my area, Parkside. We want to keep our neighborhood safe. It's a nice neighborhood now. I don't think we can afford to lose any more manpower. And I know others in my neighborhood feel the same way. It's money's tight right now. We realize it. And I just want to say I appreciate what you do. But I heard Mrs. Becker said the cops make $118,000. That's not true. My understanding, they make in the 80s, 83, I think. So, I mean, if you add pension and health care and all that other thing, but they're not taking home $83,000. They're taking whatever taxes from that $83,000 they take home. Yeah, Uncle Sam taking money out of that. So let's put things in perspective and put it for what it really is. They're not making $118,000 and like she's trying to purport and make people believe. And it angers me that someone would do that and say we should lay off another cop when we should have 17. I think we had 17 cops before. Now we're down to 12. I don't want to lose any more cops because when crime goes up, our property values go down, and it's hard to get back your streets, and it's hard to get back when things go downhill. And I don't want it to go downhill. And I've heard the chief talk before. He made huge cuts to his budget. I don't know how he's doing it, but it's amazing that he did it. He's doing a fantastic job, and I just want to put my support towards the budget. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that don't want to say anything because they don't like getting up here, but I think it needs to be said. There are a lot of people that support the budget, and they support you, and I want you to vote for this budget, and I want you to support it, okay? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on the?
Sean Carmody from Carpentersville. Speaking on myself and behalf of my wife, we support the budget. We do not want to see any layoffs in the police department or public works. A couple of things that were stated earlier, and maybe the general public doesn't understand the language, is one of the terms was unanticipated revenue. It might be worthwhile to maybe go into those details a little bit of what unanticipated revenue is and which departments actually generate that. Because the dollar amount was $330,000, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That was the local revenue portion.
What was the unanticipated, if you remember?
Unanticipated isn't reported like that. It's not part of your budget.
Okay. So, in a nutshell, unanticipated revenue is after, and I'll use what the police work, the detectives, collectively, 2 of them, and the need for 2 of them is obviously their workload. But unanticipated revenue is X amount of dollars that the police generate from fines, traffic fines, criminal arrests, and then building inspector, when he writes fines, X amount of dollars comes back to the town itself. So you hear the term unanticipated revenue, but it's a significant amount of money that comes in throughout the year that is generated by police work and other offices within the municipality. So to eliminate a job, you're eliminating an income to the town. If it's one officer, it's X amount of dollars for the work that he does. If you have a police officer that does more work than the other, he's going to generate more unanticipated revenue. Obviously, from council and mayor's standpoint, that particular officer might be a little bit more popular because you're generating more unanticipated revenue. It would hurt the town to take the department down 1 or 2 police officers and also public works. So, in short, we support the budget.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Any other?
I think Lorraine would like to respond to that definitional
I
question.
think there might have been a confusion between unanticipated and local revenues. Our local revenues were the $330,000. That's our court fines, our liquor licenses, and that whopping $600 of interest. Our unanticipated revenue for 2014 was a little over $83,000, and that's all of the budgets. All of the revenues that we received that aren't anticipated, like police reports. I think it's like $5 a report, and all the other like copy fees, all of the smaller revenues that don't amount to a lot, that just kind of build our surplus. We don't anticipate them in the budget. So I think that there just might have been a little.
You know the percentage that comes back from
Sean, no, we're not going to, sorry.
Our court fines, I believe, would
Yeah.
encompass everything that would run through the court system that police would generate.
Thank you.
I'm Anju Jasani. I live at 501 County Road 639. And while I am, sympathetic to layoffs, I'm also seeing that we have an accident waiting to happen with this budget, and so I'm against it. I bought our home in 2000. My house has not gone up in value in 15 years, but my taxes have nearly doubled. So right now I'm paying $11,000 in taxes. When I bought my home in 2000, I was paying $6,000. I point to my neighbor who just sold his house at 304 County Road 639. He had a tax appraisal of $283. The house actually sold for $183. What's going to happen with that new owner? He's certainly going to have an argument for a lower taxes. And as these houses sell for less than what they're taxed at, we are going to have a crisis because people are going to be coming in for reductions in taxes. I don't know how we're going to be able to do it. First, my house is basically unsellable. I don't think I can get what I paid for it. So when I sell it and I sell it for less than I paid for it, the next person is going to come in and say, you can't tax me on 283 because I paid 183 for that house. And as we have more and more people doing that, how are we going to possibly maintain a budget? So we have prices of houses going down and taxes are going up. So I think we need to figure out how to manage costs because otherwise no one will be able to sell and no one will be buying and we will be basically a bankrupt town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Kevin Melvin, Winters Road. I'd first like to commend our CFO on another excellent presentation. Thank you. It was very detailed. I also want to say, I don't envy the job you guys have in front of you. It's very difficult. I appreciate the services we get in our town. Like the last speaker, I look at my taxes and they've gone up drastically since I moved in 10 years ago, probably 50–60% easily. I also appreciate that the portion of the taxes that goes to the municipality is less than 50% significantly. I think it was 30+. So my concern is multifold, is that we're looking at an increase in the municipal tax here. I think there's probably a good probability that we're going to see increases in school taxes and county taxes. So there's an aggregate effect here that's going to hit the township, the residents of the township. As for the staff reductions, I myself have been in layoffs. It's not nice. I've been through them twice. And I can appreciate the challenges that come with a business, and running a town is similar to running a business. I know that there was discussion of concessions, and it was mentioned again in the presentation this evening with the unions. I have to say that the concessions that I heard through the public comment or the portion that was available to the public that I was witness to, it didn't sound to me like they were had a lot of skin in the game. It sounded like some were I'm not going to take my payout for my vacation this year, I'll take it out in the future year, which to be frank isn't a lot of skin in the game in my play. I appreciate the comment with regard that the gentleman made earlier with regard to the revenue that officers may bring in. I don't know what the revenue per FTE is, but I doubt it's able to support the full time. And I'm not saying reductions are the way to go, but we are going to be in a crisis. And Sal, every meeting I come to, I hear you talk about the housing situation. People aren't going to be able to afford the taxes, so I think we're going to see that challenge people being able to keep upkeep with their houses as well. Additionally, there is so much that many of our residents are on a fixed income. I know I've spoken to a few people and the challenges that they have even trying to keep up with ends meeting. And so, again, I don't envy you. You have a very difficult decision in front of you tonight, but we can't put Band-Aids on it, and I agree with Dr. Hernandez's comment. We took 55% of our surplus to make the Band-Aid for this budget, allowing us 45%. The probability of us adding to that surplus is very low in the upcoming years, right? because we haven't fixed any of the problems. All we've done is we've kept a lot of the same, we've made some minor cuts, but we've taken 55%, 550,000, I believe, was in the ballpark, from that surplus to apply to this. What are we going to do next year? So again, I appreciate all of the hard work that you're doing. I know you're not getting paid $1 million to do this, and I don't envy your position, but we need to fix what's going wrong with this budget so that we're not going to be here another year, next year, doing this all over again. And, you know, as it is now, you know, I appreciate the comment that was made about the challenges that may apply if we have crime. People aren't buying in this town for one reason now is the increased taxes. It's too expensive to live here. And I've heard that firsthand from a realtor. So, thank you.
Rennie Melvin, Winters Road. I just have something real quick to say, and I do agree with what everybody's saying here. I know that, you know, Mr. Becker has spent numerous hours trying to figure out the best plan for our town, and we appreciate that. And, you know, it's a lot of work, and it doesn't come easy, and either does making the decisions that you guys are going to have to make. However, I want to make one comment, and it's basically to you, Mr. Vangelli. I have sat at these meetings now for 2 years, and I have heard you on more than one occasion, probably about 5, 6 times, sit up there behind that desk and say to the audience and say to the council here, how can we afford to tax one more resident in this town? Yet at the last meeting, I saw you up there and you were undecided, and I don't want you to be swayed, because you know these people very well and you've known them for years. And I want you to ask yourself that really hard question tonight. How can we keep taxing our residents? And that's just what I wanted to let you know.
Well, let me answer that question.
No.
And also, that wasn't a comment on this.
Yeah, it was on the budget, yeah. Yeah. Is there any other public comment on the municipal budget? Oh, way in the back. There we go.
Hi, Ingrid Gray, Snyder's Road. Just want to start out by saying I've learned more about how the township works and what's going on, having been covering meetings and coming to these council meetings. And I've become acquainted with fellow residents and their service on the commissions and boards. And I've gotten to know a few of you through these meetings that I've been attending. And I admire the extra time and service that you give our community, because I did not realize that you attend all these other meetings on top of just this meeting. You attend historical meetings and planning board meetings and commissions for economic development and so forth. So it's a lot of time you spend, and I do appreciate that. And one thing that I do notice in these council meetings is that you also individually have departments that you handle, and you're very proud of those departments. And like Mary, you're very fond of your police department. You have a lot of pride in that.
No.
Yeah.
Mary, please let her.
Public safety. Dave, you have the road department guys, and you work well with them, and Sal, you support the recreation people so well. But maybe the primary reason you're sitting up there is because not that these employees put you there, but township residents voted you into this. And I know I voted for you. I voted for you to represent the best interests of the township, not the best interests of the employees. And I have been laid off. I have been riffed. It's an uncomfortable thing, but there are economic situations that just demanded cutbacks at previous jobs, and they were tough for me to go through. It was tough for them to riff me, but I handled it, and better days came along. And I really think maybe instead of focusing on the department so much and the employees, maybe you think about the faces of the taxpayers out there who
are really challenged by township taxes. We have a tough time. There are faces out there that you don't see. Frank Becker went out and met these faces when he was running, but I don't know when the last time was that maybe you really considered about all the people that have come in here and talked to you about the loss of business, the things they're doing less in their households with the sacrifices they're making and so forth. They're the people you represent, not these employees in the departments. And I love our employees in departments. I think they do a great job, but we can't afford them. We have to make sacrifices. Dave, when you joined the council in 2012, the newspaper quoted you. You said, the township council needs to work together to benefit the township.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think to work together to benefit the township, I think there is an inherent understanding that you're going to be fiscally responsible representing the township, and we can't make decisions that are going to create hardships and burdens on you. What a terrible burden for all of you up there when you pass a budget that people living here are going to be shutting off landlines and buying less of their favorite food or whatever it is. They're going to have to make cutbacks. And I've been through those really tough times, and you have the power to let that not happen to households in this township. And I guess the final point I want to make is that we're very willing as township residents to live with less services. We don't like it. I don't want to see less police. I don't want to see less road department. I don't like that, but that's a sacrifice as a resident I'm willing to live with, because I know at home I already live with less with the cost of living today. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none. Up, one more.
Teddy Garcia, I live in Shimer Manor. I don't can't make the meetings that much because I'm working and take care of my young family. I do make it out to a lot of the rec meetings. I'm involved with the Palackon Rec Sports. From the applause that I'm hearing, it sounds like everyone's against the police, and I don't think they know. They obviously don't know what the police do and what the budget. And by laying off a police officer and a DPW worker, I like to know how much money am I going to save. My house is roughly assessed at $250,000. I'm a single income. My wife just graduated nursing school. I look forward to a second income coming in. By getting rid of a police officer and DPW worker, how much money am I going to save? I plan on being in this town until I retire. I bought my house in 2006. I can't sell my house for what it's worth. I plan on being here for a long time, okay? I might be a little biased because I know the guys very well, but on a single income with 2 young children, I'm able to pay my taxes with no problem. Okay? And I really don't think the people here, the law enforcement, they're in the back. The people, I'm not sure what you do for a living, you have no idea. You have no idea what the law enforcement does. Okay? So I'm happy that I can drop my kids off at the bus stop knowing that they're safe. They're not going to be abducted. Because I know these guys are patrolling my neighborhood, Parkside, Shimer. Yes, they're busy up on 22. When they're done dealing with all the shopping center stuff, they're patrolling town and they're answering calls. And yes, they're answering calls down the lower end where the population isn't as dense as it is in Shimer and Parkside and Alpha Annex, but they're doing their job. If you think for 1 second the criminal element isn't going to read Lehigh Valley Live and say, oh, Pohat's down an officer, they're probably running one guy tonight, and they're probably going to go one guy on the second shift. So you have one guy now answering calls on second shift and midnight. What's one guy going to do? Not much. I don't put a price on public safety. That's one thing, and my family is so important to me. So by laying off DPW, and I like going to work. I like when I drive out of my driveway and the DPW Shimer is taken care of. I can make it out of my driveway in my two-wheel vehicle. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Dominic Agesta, 65 Mountain Road. First, I want to thank the council. I know how hard that they've have been working for several years to get taxes under control in this township and have been pretty successful. We've not had an increase in 3 years, I believe, which I think has been terrific. We've had many years before that where that was not really much of a consideration as far as controlling budgets and so forth. I know we're in a position now where things have fallen through. We've got some difficulties, but not just for the township, but also for the residents, for a number of reasons. The economy is a huge factor in what's been happening. I just think that, I understand the difficult situation that the council is in. But what's happening here is we're winding up pitting the residents against the employees, and this is just going to go back and forth. Bottom line is the reality of what's been going on in this township, not just in this township, but others, but especially in this township as far as what people can afford, what the residents can afford. And it's been said by council members already, and it's been said by residents that we're just going to be in this position again next year and in years down the road unless, some big things happen that come through. I know you're working on different projects, and we're praying that a lot of this comes through for us. But again, I ask you to take into consideration not just the residents that show up here to the meetings, but the ones that haven't been able to show up to the meetings. I've lived here for over 30 years myself. My wife's lived here all her life. We've had many great friends in this township, a number of whom are still alive, a number have passed on. But good, hardworking people that have made this township what it is. And I want to see that continue. I don't want to see at some point the state say to us, you can't cut it as a township, you don't have enough residents and so forth. You're going to have to get absorbed by someplace else. You and maybe some other townships. It may wind up being with Phillipsburg, which I would not be crazy about seeing, but I just beg you to take into consideration the long term and the long run on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. Do we have a motion to close public comment?
I'll move that.
Second it.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now procedurally, discussion from council. I don't know. Bill, do you want to give a little synopsis before we
Well, I can't top Lorraine's.
You have a PowerPoint?
No, no problem. Just to say procedurally, this was one of the 3 years the state reviewed the budget, and they gave us the okay to, if it is your wish, to adopt the budget. The budget is going up 4.4 points on the taxes. Major causes for the increase was the lack of, or the loss of revenue, which would actually, the decrease in revenue would be 17 points. The decrease in the use of fund balance, we did reduce the amount of fund balance by over $500,000. That was another 17 points. That was offset by, we reduced operating revenues $481,000, which was 14 points. We reduced capital expenditures $313,000, which was 9 points. We had, and the loss of, or the reduction of the reserve fund collected taxes was 2.4 points. So all netted down to the 4.4 point increase, tax rate increase, which is about a 4% increase for the year, which on the average home assessed at $168,600 would be $74 for the year, or $6.17 a month.
Thank you, Bill.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, that's.
Maureen, in years past, that surplus has been reduced down to almost nothing. Is that correct? In prior years?
In prior years, prior than.
Several years ago.
Right, but 2010 or 2011 in that neck of the woods?
I think it was 08 or 09, it was like zero.
I used almost entirely.
Entirely correct.
The difference between then and now is then you kind of had a fluffy budget. You had a lot of revenue that wasn't maxed out. You overestimated your appropriations, and you spent less than what you said. So you were regenerating what, $600,000-700,000 a year. Now we're kind of excited to regenerate $100,000 a year. We are anticipating almost all of our revenue to have $83,000 of unanticipated revenue. Is not very much. That's maybe 3 cents, or less than 3 cents. Not only that, but with the tighter budget, we don't have a lot of appropriations left. By the time we get to the end of the year, we're really scrounging for money to pay the bills that are coming in December. So we're really not regenerating much surplus.
At the end of last year, we regenerated $300,000 of surplus. However, that included the $115,000 loss of, or shortfall in the court revenue from one of the red lights going out during the year and then being shut down during the year. So we're anticipating, we're using $550,000. We're hoping to regenerate that this year, but that's going to be a tough do because we were stretching that a little bit to keep taxes as low as possible. But we're going to regenerate a portion of that. What we don't spend in the budget comes back as fund balance, and what we don't anticipate as revenue, or we get in excess of what we anticipated as revenue for individual line items, that all goes back to fund balance also.
Right, just because it's in the budget, like they said, we don't have to spend it all.
No. With testing my memory here, I thought we started with the surplus of 1.1 million. We used 1.1 million in the 2014 budget. And what we started this year with? I thought it was 1.1. I thought we were using half the budget, not more than half the budget as a surplus. We started the 2014 year with $1,952,000 of fund balance. We used in the 14 budget, we used $1,151,720 of the fund balance. We regenerated $300,000, so our surplus dropped between the two, $800,000, to where we got to the 1.1 million balance as of 12/31/14. Right, 1.1. So we're using 550. So we're using half, not 55%. Well, I think there was we're using 55% of the available fund balance as of December 31st, but we're expecting to replenish a large portion of that during the year.
All right. Just in hearing all the discussion, I think some residents have alluded to it. I know so has Councilman Becker, and I agree myself. With this budget, does not address the concerns in future years if we don't address any type of staffing. If you looked up at that chart, it was interesting that our salaries stayed the same, but our number of employees has diminished. Our medical costs have increased, our insurance has increased. So even with reducing, we're still seeing increases. And this is something that we cannot continue to pass on to our residents. Many salaries, not to create a bifurcation between public and private, but in the private sector have seen with new healthcare regulations, their costs not having to contribute 1 or 2%, but much more significantly contribute to their insurance. They've seen the quality of their insurance decrease. People are working more than one job now to keep up on mortgage payments. Some are working more than one job just to pay the taxes. And for us to have an increase does not do those folks a service, and quite frankly, I don't think we've done a hard enough job. It is incredibly difficult to have to contemplate having someone lose their job. It is by no means does anyone have any type of enjoyment out of that. It's horrible. But when I have a resident who has lived in the township for over 60 years send me a letter that's on a piece of paper that she writes out how much she gets in Social Security and how much goes to taxes, and there's no money. And I don't know what I can tell her. She told me, you're going to have to come take me out of my house. She was yelling at me, you, Mr. Mayor, are going to have to come take me out of my house. And to me, it was such a horrifying experience to have that discussion with a resident, to know that if we're at a breaking point and if something like that happens, there's people who are going to not be able to make it. The former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Marshall, said, the power to tax is the power to destroy. And that's what we have to think about. And I cannot, in this situation, support this budget without any type of future cuts to salary. So that's just going to be my brief statement before the budget.
I know you're probably, a group of you will not want to hear this, but when I'm talking about our public safety, that's what it is. It is public safety. It's not cutting a job. I know that happens in places, but it's keeping this township safe. That there's a need to keep our police department the way it is so that they can do their job keeping you safe. Now, those of us who live in the southern part of the township, yes, we're all spread out and we're in our rural areas, and our driveway's 1,000 feet long. I mean, who comes up that driveway? But if you live in Shimer or you live in Parkside, you've got the mall there, you've got Walmart there, you've got the Cohap Plaza, all within walking distance. You've got on the other side of the highway, you have other commercial things which we have no control over. But you never know who's going to be walking about. There are 20,000 vehicles because of 22 and 78 and 519 that come through our township every day. So even though we have like 33, 39, or 93, or whatever the heck it is as far as the census goes for this township, we still need to keep the public safety. And that is where the police come in. It's not cutting a job. No, I'll tell you, if we could get away with it, if I felt that we could do it, I'd be cutting. I mean, in my other role in life that I did for 41 years, I had to tell people that they were out of a job because there was no longer a need for them. But here we have a need, and that's why and it's $6.39 a month. Now, the big increase, and unfortunately we always get lumped in with them, and therefore we look horrible and wretched, is the school. If you are concerned about how much you pay in your taxes, start going to the school board meetings and questioning and asking and having them explain, because
that is where a lot of our money goes. There, and then our tuition to Peaburg High School, which I understand they're raising another $1,000 per student. So, you know, that's where all the tax money goes. And unfortunately, we have to pay it. But it makes the municipal tax look like it's something really terrible, and it's not. We've held it steady for so many years, and so now we have a 4.5 cents? 4.4. It's $6.39 a month. Look at the reality to keep everybody in this township safe.
I have one comment, Mayor, I'd like to say. Part of the problem I feel that we're at this 4.4% or whatever it is now is the fact that we kept taxes flat for the last 3 years. If we would have crept things a little bit every year, we wouldn't be in the spot where we're at now where it's 4.4 cents.
There is a misconception there. We did increase taxes by 2% 1 year. Last year.
I mean, that's my only fear. Everybody keep taxes flat was great. And now we're in a situation where we lost revenue and now we're scratching our head trying to figure out how we're going to pay for things. But that's my only comment.
I do have one more comment, and that is about the housing situation. That is going on in this whole country. It's not just in Cohasset Township. I had to take our vehicle down to Flemington for inspection, was driving the roads. There's for sale signs by owner or by realtor all along the way, even in municipalities like Holland Township, where the taxes are supposedly lower. So all the way to Flemington, wherever you were, whatever road you were on, there were places that were for sale. So it's not just happening in Cohasset. It's happening all over.
Yeah, can I make?
Yeah, Frank, yeah.
I mean, a few things. I mean, I appreciate the comments like Kevin made and some others that Dominic and some others that that this is a tough job and we don't enjoy it, and it involves making tough decisions. You have to decide between. You can't have cake and eat it too. You have to decide between police, other employees, taxpayers. You increase the burden for each of them, you increase it for one of them or the other of them. But the reality is that we have to have increased burden. Now, where we did disagree, civilly, I might add, is that we disagree on the burden sharing. And frankly, from what I've seen, my position is that, you know, the taxpayers have been overburdened. People have mentioned the cost spiral and the value downward spiral because the tax increase spiral is happening. I side on the side of the taxpayer on this one. I mean, I don't, that's a clumsy way of saying it. I support the police, I appreciate the police, and I think the police do a fine job. Whether we can afford them is a different issue. I think Mrs. Becker raised the point of gross wages for, well, she used median pay for police was $118,000, and somebody said that's not right. I got that figure, and I mentioned it in prior meeting because it was off the payroll sheet for 2014 for New Jersey gross wages for policemen, and it is $118,000 and change, and that does not, as was implied by somebody, include the employer costs. That's why I was trying to make that point on that pie chart, that those employer costs are really costs for departments, because the pension doesn't include the pension, doesn't include the health, includes the employee portion of the pension, what they're contributing it towards. And I'm sorry, we don't pay your taxes either. Yeah, it's not a net pay, it's a gross pay. It's what the town pays for an average policeman, and it's $118,000. Now, you can argue with number of police, or you can argue with the amount they're paid, or you can argue with neither, as many of the policemen here want to argue with neither. I heard it say, you know, the police have made sacrifices. Detective Rob several months ago said, or I don't know if it's several months, a month or two ago, said he was willing to meet with us to make concessions. And he did meet with us, or with Mayor and Mary, and the concessions were, we'll delay the taking of our vacation till 2016. We won't sell out any vacation or time off. One policeman sold $60,000 worth of vacation last year, and sick time off, paid for not paid for work. I mean, we're not doing enough for the taxpayer in this town, and we have to make tough decisions. And one other point, I do think it is irresponsible to shift the DPW budget to the sewer payers. The sewer payers already were paying 25% of the DPW's budget, including overtime for when they plow the snow. They got the sewer budget got hit with that too, 25% of everything that the DPW did. And we increased it. What did we increase it to? 35%? 35%. What rationale was there? Just so that we could get the number to 4.4 instead of 5.4 or something like that? I mean, it's funny numbers. And you know, I've worked with numbers all my life, and they should have some integrity to them. And we're playing with them. And I'm not going to support this budget.
Procedurally, there's still work that could be done on this. I know if we do any type of amendment, it has to be, well, do we have to call?
I move we adopt this budget.
So we have a motion, so the next procedural issue has to be a second.
Looking at me?
No, I'm just looking to see whether we're going to get any second, because if not, then
Because they're gonna let it die.
that goes on to the next procedural issue.
I just don't want to postpone this. I'd like to get it done.
I want to go into executive session.
We
You can't.
talk about
Why
budget.
can't
You can't lobby votes,
It's
and
it's not something that we can go into.
can't do that.
We can continue the discussion, if leave that motion hanging, but you can't, but that discussion has to be here.
Yeah, it has to be in public.
I'll second it.
Okay. Becker?
No?
Black?
Yes.
Van Little? Yes. Van Jelly?
You know, the taxpayer is getting hurt. Why can't we, now I was told by a policeman, I can't say nothing. One is going to retire this year.
Councilman Vangelli, I'm sorry, you can't
You-
explain your vote.
You gotta just, you gotta, yay or
You can't
nay?
get into personnel issues.
Yeah, you
So
can't.
You can certainly.
Yes.
Explain your vote, but you
You
can't.
can certainly.
Mayor Kern.
No. No.
So that's a 3-2 pass the budget bill. At this point, I guess we just ship it down to the state.
Yes, I gave one to.
No, special, or motions, motions. I'd like to withhold, Kevin, are we in a position to withhold the Quaker Steak one?
I would just approve it at this point. The ordinance is still in effect.
All right, so we'll approve that, withhold the last.
Yeah, just.
Okay, approve all except the last
We're
one.
gonna pull the last one.
Yeah, not the last
Well,
one.
then I make a motion that we adopt the first 6.
And table the
And,
last.
I do want to explain the one, it's hiring Lisa Case, even though her name is spelled C-A-C-E, it's pronounced Case, as the interim animal control officer. Our animal control officer, Vincent, oh gosh, brain dead.
Catali.
Thank you, had a massive heart attack. And he's still in the hospital. And last I heard, he's still hooked up to a ventilator.
No, he's not. He's home, Mary.
Oh,
He's
he's
out,
home
yeah.
now? Okay, good. But anyway, so we have a substitute animal control officer. The police have her information on file. Wanda has her information. And so she'll be paid $35 a call to come and take care of any problems that we will have.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Becker?
Yes.
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 Kern?
Yes. General public comment. Does anyone have any general public comment that was not about the budget? Oh, yes, sir, yes.
Anything that's not for the budget.
Yes, yes, come on, yes.
My name is Todd Hill. I live on Parkside Avenue. And this winter, or years ago, when they did Shimer Boulevard over, they took the boulevard out, made it one lane. The triaxles ran up and down the North Street behind my house. Made it all wavy and everything. A few years ago, I'm sure Mr. Slack remembers, DPW came in, laid some tar down, some asphalt. This winter, it's all tore up. Are they looking into coming in and fixing that?
Yeah, there's been a couple soft spots up there that they're.
Oh, it's very soft, right behind my driveway.
Right, we know there's issues around. I actually got a call from Mr. Pritchard down on Maple Avenue. There's some cracking going on, and that was a new project, not so many years old. It needs to have some attention to it, and we know there's issues throughout the township on the roadway.
Yeah, 'cause it's, I mean, especially today after the rain, that thing is so soft. I mean, you drive across it, you can actually feel your truck move.
We tried to put some limitations on the weight limits, correct, Mayor?
I believe,
On some of
yeah.
those smaller streets. I guess the garbage trucks are
It's not that, it's, the whole thing happened when the triaxles ran up and down there in the beginning. Because if you remember, on the one side of Parkside, behind our houses, there used to be a ditch that went all the way down. It was a drainage ditch. They actually pushed that macadam into the ditch and just squeezed it back up. There was no ditch there anymore for stuff to run down.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's a drainage issue then.
That and the road itself is, I mean, when the plows hit it this year, you could see the macadam is just like pushed right up to the corner. There's nothing there. But if you're looking at it, then there's nothing else I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, do I have a motion for executive session? Should be about 15 minutes. It'll be contractual.
And also, I'm not sure what mine is.
Just personnel?
Kind of, yeah.
It's contractual and personnel.
Actually, I want the chief to come in.
Okay. So do I have a motion for that?
I move that.
Aye.
Aye. Yes, yes, yes. Actually,
Hi, sorry, I just need to take a.
put it on the website.
Be 100%
I
more
move we
efficient.
come out of executive session.
Okay.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we need we discussed the personnel issue or a licensing issue. Police chief got direction from us on that with respect to a recreational coach issue. The police chief will take care of that. We discussed a potential interlocal services agreement, and that's a pending contract matter, and that's still subject to executive session. No action will be taken in public on that matter tonight. There is one matter we should take action on in public. That is there was a PBA grievance pending, as well as a PBA unfair practice charge that had to do with our efforts to potentially rework how we were calculating their paybacks for sick and vacation time. They offered certain givebacks, which were basically discussed during the public hearing. And in return for that, the grievance would be dismissed, the unfair labor practice charge would be dismissed. And what happens with those unused sick and vacation days will end up being bargained as part of the next contract. Their current contract expires at the end of this year. So the settlement's been approved by their attorney. He drafted the first one. I redrafted it to make me comfortable that we could, in fact, continue to negotiate those issues next year. I'm satisfied with it. They're satisfied with it. So we would need a motion to authorize the mayor clerk to execute the settlement with the PBA.
I'll move that.
Becker?
Yes.
Black?
Yes.
Van Loo? Yes. Angeli?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
That was it for executive.
Okay, do we have any other business?
Nope, I move we adjourn.
Second?
Aye. Wanda, do you have that right there?
Hey, that comment though about please check and make sure.
I know, so.
I mean, that's really for everybody's protection, but really, to be honest with you,
Me, I-
because you're doing everybody a favor letting me use it. That's my perception. If somebody gets hurt out there, there should be some.
No, I know what you're saying.
I've never ever seen that much back. Okay.
I thought about it, and the full realization of the,
Hey, you're gonna have to get one of those cameras.
Do only I have to sign it? Oh, no, I thought they meant anyone else on council, because sometimes they have three. So the top line?
For the average, correct?
yeah,
Oh,
on a home
thank you.
assessed, I think it was 180,000.
Yeah, I have that figure.
168,000.
Georgia Tech.